So yeah, you could probably watch that for several minutes more, but of course we would throw an intro violation on ourselves and just have to cut the video short. We'd never get to the review, etc. So in this review, I'm doing a smart bulb comparison of many different smart bulbs. It started out as maybe 4 or 5, and we talked on Discord and compared a few things, but it just quickly blew into a crazy shootout of the number of bulbs that we're comparing in this video. So with that said, we're not going to be doing any ZigBee or Z-Wave bulbs. All these bulbs are going to be using Wi-Fi. I tend to have some issues with range with ZigBee and some interference issues with Z-Wave, so that's what we're sticking with is the Wi-Fi bulbs that don't require any type of hub or special radio, etc., because most everyone has Wi-Fi in their home. And it's super simple to add range, and many other devices such as tablets, phones, etc., will benefit from the added range, and I'm using Ubiquiti Unify access points in my home. I still highly recommend them. I did a video previously before using for presence detection with Home Assistant. Probably still hands down one of the best tech decisions I've made in the past. I've been running them for probably a good 2 years or more now. The only regret I have about them is I didn't do it earlier. Now, the naysayers may say, well, you're using all these Wi-Fi devices and everything. Well, I live in a typical size suburban home, and I'm using 2 access points and probably have over 85 devices across the 2 access points. And looking at the utilization, they're just definitely asking for more devices. So we're going to load them up with even more devices as we go and no issues. So I highly recommend the Ubiquiti Unify, and no, they're not a sponsor of this video at all. I just love their products. Now, not too much on their switches and possibly their USG, but their Unify products are great. Now, if you're new to the home automation game, you can leave them in the cloud using the stock Tuya firmware and use the Tuya Smart app on your phone, and they'll still work fine for doing your various automations and turn them off and on with Google Home and your Amazon Echo devices, etc. But some of the tinkerers of our type, we also want to flash our own firmware on them. So all of these bulbs, we did flash them with the Tuya Convert process, and we flashed Tasmodo on them. And you can also do ESP Home, ESPurna, many other different open source firmwares. And once you flash the open source firmware, it takes them out the cloud and gives you the ultimate power of local control and reliability of exactly what you want to do with them. The only bulb we didn't flash anything with is the LiftX bulb. It is with the stock firmware, but it does have local control. So it still amazes me that we can flash firmware to a light bulb and have a web server GUI with all the controls right there locally right off the bulb itself. So what about the bulbs? We can't forget about the bulbs, right? We talked about Wi-Fi and everything else and firmwares, and that's just all boring, right? Let's get to it. So what we did, we took a DSLR camera, made a test board, as you can see behind here, set all the bulbs up, and we locked in the exposure settings, and we found one that worked decently for the camera. Now, of course, we didn't want one overexposed like this one. We found a good setting, and we kept it locked in for every single bulb. We went through and tried all the different color ranges for every single bulb, every single color, and we took pictures of every single one. Now, how many bulbs? You've been talking about bulbs. Well, we did a lot of bulbs. Maybe we'll do more in the future, but here's all the bulbs that we did, and we will show you all the listing of all the bulbs. So what about your test setup, Travis? Is you gonna just let us look at them? That's going to be boring. Well, of course not. We got data to back it up. So, of course, what does a home automation geek do? We set up a Node MCU, and we set up a lux sensor on a little rigged up type of post off the board. And if you recognize the sensor down there below, brownie points to you for watching previous videos, but we use 2 lux sensors and average between the 2 in order to give us a different look for way light bounced off of things, because they all do have different diffusers on them. So we didn't want any bulb to be, have an advantage over one or the other based on how the light came out of the diffuser. So we used the TSL 2591 and the TSL 2561 lux sensors and went between the two, as you can see here. Checked the bulb out, checked the brightness, and we went through and started recording data for every single bulb. For the test setup, we chose a location that had a white wall with several different features to it. That way it could get reflections. We chose a reflective floor and we left the board. We wanted all different types of straight, curved, various surfaces so you could see the brightness based on the different aspects of the diffuser. So hurry up, let's get to the bulbs. Well, hold on. Before I show you all the montage of all of the various bulbs, you'd probably say, well, Travis, your backward Louisiana education, you just can't count. Well, the way the bulbs are, not every bulb has every single color. We did throw in a lot of different bulbs, some reference bulbs. Some of them don't even have red, some don't have blue, some don't have cool white, some don't have warm white. So you will see numbers skipped. So what you'll do is go through each of the next montages of bulbs and choose the number that you like for each color. Go ahead and grab you a pen and pencil. That way you can mark those down and see which one you think is the best and the ones that you like, and then try to find that bulb that would fit you. So on to the bulb montages. So you can see there's 2, 5, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna let you choose your own bulb in peace. I'll be back. So what'd you think of the bulbs? Pretty cool, eh? Well, there's the list of them, and now you can pick the one that works for you. Every time I look at those montages of smart bulbs, it just still leaves me in awe. It's the true way to compare smart bulbs, all at a glance on one screen. I'd like to thank Jim Brewer and V. Solomon for helping out with the montage of those. They definitely turned out great. So which one did you choose? Well, which one's my favorite? Hang out towards the end and we'll show you which one is my favorite that meets my needs. So we're not going to ramble on through these. We're just going to blow through some of these slides, and you're welcome to pause it and review the data. We will leave a blog post as well as all the links down to the various bulbs in the description of the video so you can purchase them. And we got the green. You can continue to see which ones are the winners and which ones are the losers. And blue. And of course, cool white, which was what this one was very surprising to me, because I figured the LiftX bulb would be the winner with this, because typically you're wanting to see that CW, the cool white, as being your main choice of color for a bulb. Well, the LiftX just didn't pan out that well for us, even though it is a bulb that is sometimes 4 to 5 or 6 times or whatever the amount of the bulbs right next to it. Warm white, got LiftX back on top. And then a surprising one, see the mercury. So we did this one because several people had asked about, hey, what's the Wi-Fi signal between several of the bulbs? Well, we placed the board with all the bulbs and we placed them in a couple different places and kind of scored them based on being very close to an access point. And also I put them all the way out in the backyard and plugged them in out there because I wanted to get a further Wi-Fi signal and see what those looked like. Averaged the numbers together and kind of came up with a scoring based on the bulbs themselves. Now what's crazy is that Edison tunable bulb by Lohas always came out on top. Not sure exactly why. Now There can be different calibration settings per bulb, so that it will vary even by the same bulb in the same box. Just kind of the way things are with these ESP8266 chips. So your mileage may vary on this. So how efficient are all these bulbs? Well, you can see the original true 60-watt bulb that no one should be using in their home, unless you're trying to maybe heat something up with a light bulb, does use the 60 watts. We put these at full white on all the other bulbs and then measured them with a kilowatt meter to see the actual wattage being used. So since we did talk about, we threw that LiftX bulb in there. It's a very expensive bulb, and I just don't have the budget myself or the stomach to purchase a $40-something bulb to put everywhere in my home or put outside, etc. So we've taken out the LiftX bulb here, and we looked at the comparison, and you can see the Lohas and the Novastella. They're just simply on top, and they're very affordable bulbs. Now, they are 100-watt equivalent and 120-watt equivalent, but crazily, there are some other good contenders in that 60-watt range. So you really have to do your own cost to wattage comparison of bulbs you want. And also based on, do you want a 2-channel, 4-channel, 5-channel, etc., because you have RGB, CW, and WW. Now, one thing I don't really like too much are the bulbs that only have warm white. It's really hard to get a cool white out of a RGB. You get that lavender white. But it's not too hard to take a cool white bulb and add a little RGB to it to make it a little warmer. So here's the comparison of just the 60-watt class of bulbs. You can see there's some really great bulbs in this list as well. So which one's my favorite? Well, keep in mind we did have a few reference bulbs in there, and we did throw in that expensive LifeX bulb. So I kind of removed that from my own queue. And there is that bulb that did score lower, which is that Edison filament style tunable one, but it does fit great in certain fixtures that the other bulbs don't work in. So there's that. You have to look at what you're using this for. So my favorite is the Loha 60-watt equivalent bulbs. We've done a previous video on them. They are not a sponsor of anything, and they didn't send them to me. I've actually purchased all these bulbs, so there's definitely no bias at all. They just have some awesome colors and great brightness to them. Since they do utilize those My92X1 drivers, it allows you to have pretty much almost no flicker due to those hardware LED drivers compared to the PWM you see in other bulbs. You can turn the brightness down way low in these things without any flicker at all. So we'll definitely leave the link down below. They do have usually some sales on these and different coupons, and check them out. The price changes from time to time on these bulbs, but they're great value bulbs and you just can't go wrong with them. And they are supported by ESP Home and a pull request I did for in Tasmota. So check them out. They're great bulbs. So did we miss any bulbs? Well, definitely leave us a comment down below if there's other bulbs you'd like to check out. Maybe we'll do a part 2 of this video and see if some different contenders that maybe knock out some of these. Now, don't click off the video just yet, because we did going to do one part that is very important to the roots of this channel. We're going to look at every single bulb and pop the diffuser off and see what makes them tick and see what's inside of them. So if you want to hang out for that, stick around. If not, that's perfectly fine. That's not your thing. Hey, if you're not a subscriber, definitely smash that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you can catch our next video. And I appreciate all the Patreon subscribers and everyone else that's in Discord and helps out with things. It truly makes the great community of things. So check us out in Discord. It's a lot of fun. And y'all take care, and don't forget, hang out for the bulb disassembly. So this is the Anoop Psych bulb. I just refer to it as the Anoop bulb, easier to pronounce. This is just a 2-channel bulb, and it uses PWM. And you can see here, there is a warm white and a cold white, and they just interlace them and go around the rim of the bulb. You can actually see they do use this same PCB for their color bulb, but it's missing the color LEDs soldered to the side, plus you see the traces aren't soldered here and the resistors are missing. So only using the CW and WW on this one. And of course, this is in the middle, the Tuya module that sticks up and allows the antenna to be in between and stick up in the diffuser. So really simple layout of this bulb, and there's no pins for RX and TX, so the only way to do this is to convert. This is the AOI cocker, or AO cocker, however you want to pronounce it. Definitely some weird names on some of these bulbs. You can see that typically they do follow the same thing with the white LEDs that go around the rim. And these are the RGB LEDs in the middle. And of course, there are no RX and TX pins. And when you unscrew this, you really can't get to the board easily. So it's pretty much a to convert only bulb, because you'd have to pretty much destroy it to get to the RX and TX pins. So pretty simple design. This is PWM. There isn't any LED drivers, so you do have the PWM software drivers in the ESP8266 doing everything. Tried to pop the diffuser off of this bulb, but for some reason I think it was all one unit, and I couldn't get it open without destroying it. But this is the bulb that brought us to the game, right? So it's just your typical 60-watt bulb, and it does really pull 60 watts. It does get warm. You can actually always use these as a heater as well, because of how inefficient they are. There's no smarts to it, no PWM, no LED drivers, because of course there's no LED. We pulled this out of the attic, had it sitting up in between some rafters, and it still works. And actually I do use this to calibrate all of my power monitoring plugs. This is what I keep it around for. It's really easy to monitor. It's really great for calibrating those power monitoring plugs. You shouldn't be using these in your house, by the way. So in the Inshine bulb, you can see they do this same type deal. They put the white LEDs around the rim, and they do interlace them again with the warm white and then the cool white all the way around. And then you can see the red, green, and then the blue LEDs. And there are multiple reds and blues, and they just kind of scatter them around. And this is a PWM controllable board as well. And the Tuya module is right here. Of course, no RX and TX pins. So this is the Eziku bulb. And one thing you will notice right off the bat, there are no cool white. It is just a warm white only bulb. So do know that going in. And of course, we will reflect that in the data. But some people do like the warm white. This does use the My92 X1 drivers that are in the board itself down below, so it's not PWM. It will give you probably a little better color and a little less flicker based on some of the PWM drivers. Typical deal, you've got your combined RGB LEDs scattered around where they could. That way it gives a good coverage. And then the Tuya module sticks up right here with the antenna to give decent Wi-Fi coverage. So simple layout, and this does use, again, the hardware drivers and not the PWM. So this one's a pretty cool bulb. It's made by actually Lohas, and I did get this from Alibaba. Now they do carry this on Amazon now, and we will show the link down in the description below. It is a pretty cool bulb. You can actually see there are these different type of like LED strands inside, and that's going to be your cool white and your warm white. So this is a 2-channel PWM bulb, and the cool part is all of the power supply and the ESP8266, if you can see, is down in the neck of the bulb itself, so it gives that same look that you're normally seeing with these Edison filament style bulbs. So pretty cool that they fit it all down the bottom. And it does work, of course, with Tasmota or ESP Home, etc. Pretty neat little bulb. So this is the Lohas 60 watt. Probably still one of my favorite bulbs due to the colors, the brightness, and the main thing. They label everything on top. You can see there's GPIO 0, GPIO 2, which you really don't need. There's RX, TX, 3.3 volts. Right next to the ESP chip, And there's also the G is ground as well. You can actually solder this and not required to use Tuya Convert. Now they do work with Tuya Convert, but it's awesome that they do have a plan B. So if for some reason you do end up breaking it or have an issue, you can always revert to do this in the solder method, which is not very normal for most bulbs. So this being a very bright bulb and just a great bulb all around, plus you get the plan B, that's a win-win in my book. Now you can also see, and we have covered this before, there are the My92X1 drivers right here that do cover the channels for the RGB and the cool white. Now the way this bulb does work, and as of Tasmota 66018, which you should be using 6.7 or better, it does support this bulb with the dual channels of white that allows it to have the good brightness for white. And you can bring it down really, really dim, which is great with these hardware LED drivers. You don't get the flickering like you do with PWM. And of course, here is the Wi-Fi antenna that sticks up above the board as a little coil antenna. And this is the LOHAS 100 watt equivalent bulb. It's the big brother to the one we just showed previously. You can see all the red, blue, red, green, blue, red, etc. LEDs scattered all the way around the rim. And now you'll notice on this one, there's 3 sets of cool white LEDs. And those are on separate channels of the My92X1 drivers. It's the same type of layout. You do have that same plan B. If you do happen to break the bulb for some reason, you can solder to these points, which is, again, not very normal for being able to solder to a bulb. So pretty cool bulb. Really enjoy this bulb. It's a little bit brighter than the 60 watt, and it is supported by Tasmota. As we mentioned before, this one has 3 channels, but it is mapped in the latest version of Tasmota with the template. So this is another LOHAS bulb. This is just a 2-channel. As you can see, there's no RGB LEDs. It's just the cool white and warm white LEDs around the rim. And it does use the My92X1 driver on the board, so you can bring it way down in brightness and not have any flickering due to this. Pretty cool bulb. It does have the ground RX TX 3.3 volt and GPIO 0 exposed, so it's definitely cool to have that backup plan in case that something does happen to the flash on this, or in the future if you just can't do Tuya Convert again, well then you can always just solder it like I did on this bulb in the past. Here is the Wi-Fi little coil antenna in the middle, and everything's right there up top for you to see. So this is the Lunatac 60 watt equivalent bulb. Pretty simple layout. You can see the cool white LEDs are around the rim again, and the ESP antenna sticks up at the top right here, along with the RGB LEDs in the center. No RX or TX pins, so probably you have to do this with Tuya Convert. And it is PWM based, unfortunately, so you don't have the hardware drivers that will allow you to go real dim with no flickering. So this is the Mercury 75 watt bulb. And don't let this fool you. These are the only warm white LEDs around the rim. It is pretty bright from what I found using warm white if you're like warm white. But of course, like I mentioned before, I prefer that they would use cool white, and that way you could mix in some RGB to warm that white up. Definitely some unique looking RGB LEDs in the middle, and maybe that's why it's somewhat dim on color. And then there's the ESP module in the middle with the antenna that sticks up the top. And this does use the SM16716 LED driver to do the color side, and a PWM does the actual warm white. This is that Nova Stella bulb, and of course they do claim to be the brightest smart bulb out there on the market right now. You can see they do the warm white, cool white, and they do go all the way around the rim and interlace in all the white LEDs. So this is a 5-channel bulb. That way you do get your RGB plus cool white and warm white. It's all driven through PWM. There are no LED drivers, unfortunately. It is a very bright bulb. It's a little wider bulb, probably due to the extra heatsink and power supply to provide that extra boost of energy for these LEDs. Of course, here again, here's the ESP chip in the middle, and we did use 2U convert on this because there's no RX and TX pins exposed up top. So this is that real food bulb. I want to always call it the real food bulb. It kind of looks funny. This bulb has a weird little look to it with the diffuser. Kind of cool, but it does have the cool white and warm white channels all scattered around, along with the RGB LEDs in the middle with the ESP chip that sticks up top for the Wi-Fi coverage. It's all PWM based. There's no LED drivers found on this, so it does make it easy for setup, but of course you do get that flickering if you want to bring it down really low, like say those 10%. So this is the Tekken SB50, and you'd say, wait a minute, you didn't pop the diffuser off of it? Well, yeah, actually we did. There's a diffuser on top of it, and once you pop it off, which is weird to me, it seems like it would cut down on light being sent out from the LEDs, but maybe it's helping diffuse it more. There's a second diffuser that's lightly glued underneath. I'm not really sure of why. Maybe someone can tell me down in the comments down below. But once you do remove both diffusers, you can see they do the same type deal. They interlace the cool white and warm white LEDs around the rim. Here's the Wi-Fi antenna, little coil antenna that sticks up through the middle, and you have your RGB LEDs. So there are no LED drivers, so it's just a 5-channel PWM, so you possibly may get that same little issue if you want to bring these really, really dim. You could notice some flickering. And that's just due to the software drivers of the ESP8266 that does PWM. And in case you didn't know what these were, they went ahead and put the picture of the screw here to let you know that's a screw. So in the name of testing various firmwares of Tasmodo and upgrading versions, etc., and trying different things with 2U convert, we did end up breaking this bulb. So why not? Let's go ahead and tear this bulb down and see what's inside. So there's 3 Phillips screws, and we'll take and pry this LED board out. And typically some of these, they will have a set of pins that allow the LED board to slide out, and there is like a type of heatsink paste that goes on it to help dissipate the heat to the bulb typically. And you can see down the neck of this bulb there is the power supply, 3 pins for all the RGB, and you can see the ESP8266 as well as the flash chip there. Now, the one thing is trying to pull this bulb board out. There's not any slack, because typically what they do is they'll slide this piece in, and then this will get soldered to it and crimped. And there's really no way for the typical user to uncrimp this and then be able to crimp it back. You end up having to tear the bulb up when you're pulling it out. So we'll just gently take our easy pop-off pliers, pop it right off, because I'm sure we'll put it back, right? There we go. So this one doesn't even look like it's soldered. They just actually put those pieces in there and crimp it down. So we'll slide this whole piece out. And this is just the metal heat sink. And you really could take, if you still wanted to use this bulb, and use something like the cliff tester like we've used before, and you could, if you're careful in doing it, not end up electrocuting yourself, you could light this back up and connect this LED set to it, as long as you didn't brick it like I did. So this does look like at first it is socketed, but it's not. It is soldered together. So let's take a closer look at the board, and then we'll throw it in the drawer for maybe another day. Looks like GPIO 5 on that side, 15, 12, and 14. If I remember correctly, these are probably the PWM outputs that go to the LED board. So I'm not seeing any RX or TX pins. Yeah, same thing here. IO5, ground, VCC, 14, 12, and 15. The transistors, probably for the RGB. There's RX and TX and GPIO 0. So it definitely would be a pain to get to without tearing this thing apart. Definitely only going to be a 2-year convert one, I'll say. So glad that QC has passed. Because no one will see that sticker, but I guess it's part of their process. Maybe we'll save this sticker if we ever review another Zozi PTZ camera. Alright guys, I'm out. Thanks for watching.